Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Point Fortin Highway expected to be completed over a 4-year period. Contingency measures have been implemented to minimize the effects on levels of water service. And the Minister of Gender, Youth and Child Development encourages citizens to put the welfare of children first and foremost in everything they do. Thank you for joining us. Work on the Point Fortin Highway has been moving aggressively ahead as the government makes good on its promise to provide better connectivity between South Trinidad and the rest of the country. The two-lane highway is expected to be completed over a 4-year period, having been started in 2011.
In 1 year's time, citizens will feel the ease of traffic and the convenience of the Point Fortin Highway. On Tuesday, Minister of Works and Infrastructure, Dr. the Honorable Surajratan Rambachan, visited a number of construction sites along the highway where work continues apace. On November 7th, construction on the Point Fortin Tilbury end of the highway officially began, to the delight of citizens and other stakeholders along the southwestern peninsula. Minister Rambachan noted that a milestone achievement in the construction of the $7.4 billion highway should be reached by December 2014.
By the end of December 2014, at least 50% of the highway will be completed in terms of driving space. But that doesn't mean to say that more of the highway would not be completed. When you take all the bridges and what have you that will be built, more than 50% of the highway will be completed. But you will have a minimum of 50% to drive by the end of December 2014, which will be quite an achievement in terms of this highway.
The Honourable Minister explained that there was still a small number of acquisitions that were necessary for the progress of the highway. He did, however, express confidence that all negotiations would be completed in the best interest of citizens.
A lot of people have accepted the negotiations, and a lot of people also have accepted now the offer of land, both in Picton and in Pitimoon. In fact, we have handed out 47 parcels of land already to people whose properties have been acquired. And we are about to hand out a number of lots also, about 44 lots, to people who are squatting in the St. Mary's area in the Picton development.
President of the National Infrastructure Development Company Limited, Dr. Carson Charles, revealed that the Point Fortin Tilbury segment of the highway up to number 8 Road would be completed by the end of 2014.
On this end, we are building 2.5 kilometers as the first phase. In this 2.5 kilometers, there are some major bridges to be built, what we call box culverts, where they're rather large, as wide as 4.5 meters, high as 3.5 meters from the riverbed. And some of them are between 50 and 80 meters also in terms of length. So these are major works that will be done here. In another section of the highway, there is what you call a gas corridor, in which there will be a 200-meter bridge to cover these gas lines that will also be built. So some of this is very complex work.
Meanwhile, the minister used a map to give a picture of the works that have been completed and those projects which will soon begin.
So we have started from Point Fortin here. We are coming up to this 2.5 kilometer here, which is the number 8 overpass. In this area, as I said, there are 5 culverts, big culverts to be built. In this section here, there is a 200-meter bridge to be built to go over the gas lines and what have you. And then we are coming back up here to the Labray interchange and underpass. And we are back to the Mondesi here. We are going this way to Berridge where we just were, into St. Mary's. And then we are back on Mosquito Creek going down to Dumfries Road.
Brazilian firm Constructura OAS Limited is said to have enlisted the services of an increased number of local contractors on the highway project. In July, Minister Rambachan noted that 52% of the work was allotted to locals. The highway project currently provides jobs to hundreds of citizens, and once completed, businesses and infrastructure in South Trinidad are expected to be improved. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
In other news, celebrated artist Leroy Clark and award-winning multimedia producer Camille Selvon Abrahams were just two of the panelists at the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development's panel discussion titled The Human Imagination at Work. The panel discussion is part of the build-up to the 8th America Competitiveness Forum, due to be held in Trinidad and Tobago from October 8th through the 10th next year.
Very rarely do the words imagination and business find themselves in the same sentence or even on the same stage, unless it's a discussion based around selling books or movies. So some must have thought it odd to see renowned artist Leroy Clark sitting on stage next to Nicholas Lockjack, president of the Manufacturers Association of Trinidad and Tobago and executive director of Associated Brands Limited, one of the largest private businesses in the Caribbean. But these two men both require a critical talent which is essential to the success of their endeavors: creativity. The Minister of Planning and Sustainable Development, Senator the Honorable Dr. Botewari, says the concept that creativity and an active imagination is not necessary for business is one which must be changed. He explains that creativity is possible in any context, including business, where it comes in the form of innovation and innovative designs or solutions. This, he says, in turn leads to increased competitiveness.
Innovation provides solutions where problems might exist. The human imagination is an inexhaustible source of creativity, of innovation, of solutions, and solution finding. And these can take many forms depending on the situation. And within the last 25 years, creativity and innovation in business have become a matter of interest. And it has become a source of fascination for me because at the heart of it all is the value and convenience for the citizen as customer. Innovation is now a buzzword in business, science, and technology and academia, and it is becoming a popular word in everyday life.
Minister Tewari says he hopes the 8th America Competitiveness Forum, which is due to be held in Trinidad and Tobago next year, will engineer a change in the concept of the role the imagination plays.
Brain power and the creative power of the human imagination are now the drivers of competitive advantage as innovation and talent have become local as well as global assets. It is on this basis that the idea to engage the public in this discussion has been built. It is my hope that this forum will serve to create a major shift in the tectonics of applying human imagination to better the human condition in all aspects of life. Innovation is a process result, and imagination is the fuel on which it works. Innovation cannot be created without imagination. Human imagination focuses on the creative aspect of human capital. Innovation and entrepreneurship come from these things.
The planning minister reiterates there are many huge benefits which this country have to gain by hosting the 8th ACF next year.
Hosting and participating in the 8th ACF presents Trinidad and Tobago with an opportunity to increase our competitiveness and innovative capacity through research and studies to inform policy, as well as to advance the national innovation agenda. 2, dialogue and sharing of experiences across the Americas. 3, the opportunity to showcase innovative and competitive solutions produced by local individuals and organizations. And 4, encouraging creativity and creating an innovative culture within our own society.
The panel discussion is just the second in a series of planned activities leading up to the ACF. Later this week, a team from the Inter-American Development Bank will meet with and engage the private sector on how more financing can be made available for private sector investment and business expansion in Trinidad and Tobago. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
When we come back, the mayor of Chaguanas looks after the business of the borough. Stay with us. The Water and Sewage Authority is advising the public that its contingency measures have been implemented to minimize the effects on levels of service as a result of the planned shutdown of the desalination plant at Point Lisas. The shutdown commenced on Wednesday, November 20th and will continue until Monday, November 25th, which will result in a daily loss of 32 million gallons of water to the utility over the period. Now, WASA says included among the contingency measures are the imposition of temporary water supply schedules for areas in northwest, central and south Trinidad, as well as the reallocation of supply from the Caroni and Navet water treatment plants and other production facilities. There will also be the strengthening of water trucking capacity, an accelerated leak repair program to reduce water loss, and the promotion of water conservation. WASA's temporary water supply schedules have been published and are available on the authority's website at www.wasa.gov.tt and its social media profiles. The schedule that has been published indicates when water is on in particular areas. Customers are reminded to practice efficient water use habits during the period of the shutdown. In other news, His Worship, the Mayor of the Borough of Chaguanas, Gopal Budan, is wasting no time at all in buckling down to work and looking after the business of the people of the Central Borough. During an interview, Mayor Budan shared some of his plans.
Since his ascension to the mayorship of Chaguanas, Mr. Budan admits he has been very busy. He said one of his very first tasks was to meet the already familiar people of Chaguanas, this time though as their mayor. Mr. Budan was the deputy to former Mayor Orlando Nagasar. During his walkabout, the new mayor met with vendors of the Chaguanas market who requested that key issues affecting them be addressed. Some of these issues include lack of space, infrastructure, security, and traffic congestion.
Even the vendors told us that some of the solutions for some of those problems in the market, we are very quickly within the next couple of days that the ones that we could done that are very simple to be done, that we'll make the arrangement to have that done, and all the other estimates and all the other work that's supposed to be done, we do it in the shortest possible time. All to make sure that the vendors are very comfortable so that they could sell their goods in an environment that's sustained.
Mayor Budan, who was at the time attending the awards ceremony of those persons who took part in various competitions during the Diwali Nagar, stated that beginning next year, much more focus will be placed on youth development in Chaguanas.
We want to continue the expansion of youth, give youth a voice that is very prominent in the borough. And within this 3-year tenure, starting from 2013 to 2016, a major emphasis will be on youth and the development of youth. And as I mentioned, that one of the things that we would like to do is showcase the cultural talents of youths in the borough, be it from the schools or other organizations, but a wide cross-section of cultural talent in the development and showcasing our talent in the borough of Chaguanas. So with this in mind, we want to propose to do a school/youth song festival sometime in April or May next year, where you will have like over 2 or 3 days, all different type of talent, be it music, be it song, be it some area of drama, but that talent of the youth will be showcased in Chaguanas.
Felicia Wilson-Mon, News 4.
Sport is up right after the break. Stay with us. The Ministry of Sport partnered with the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association to give the senior national men's team a stern test to end the 2013 international campaign. The Soca Warriors defeated arch rivals Jamaica in Montego Bay last Friday, which was the first game of the 2-match series. Game 2 was contested at the Hazley Crawford Stadium on Tuesday, and as you will see in this Wayne Cunningham report, the resurgence continues.
The fans came out to the Hazley Crawford Stadium for the second game of a 2-match series versus Jamaica, which was not only the final international encounter for the senior men's national football team, but it was also the final game in national colours for Christopher Burchell. The Soca Warrior has decided to retire from international football and will now focus on his club career and spend more time with his family. As part of the 2006 World Cup squad, the Port Vale midfielder served Trinidad and Tobago well with his high-energy contributions on the pitch and consummate professionalism in the dressing room. Prior to the start of the match, Burchell was honoured for that sterling contribution to national football and was all smiles when he received a token of appreciation from His Excellency Anthony Thomas Aquinas Carmona, President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The Warriors took Game 1 in Montego Bay, Jamaica with a 5th-minute goal by Atula Guerra and were hoping to grace the home fans with an early goal as well. And they almost did, as Guerra played a neat pass to Rondell Winchester on the flank, and the Tobago sensation centered to Kenwin Jones, but a shot from the captain was off. That early goal did not come, as the first half ended goalless. Trinidad and Tobago continued to look the better side in the second half, with Guerra pulling the strings, and this call for an infringement on Jones looked a good shout, but play on was the instruction from referee Enrico Wingarde of Suriname. When the goal came, it was worth the wait. Guerra with a cracking shot to beat Richard McCallum in the Jamaican goal. Guerra taking out two defenders as he drifts on top of the box and lets loose a rocket to make it 1-0 Trinidad and Tobago and send the Hainsley Crawford Stadium into a frenzy. Jamaica was hardly in the match, as the Warriors were faster too and accurate with the ball. Kenwin Jones rounded out the scoring with a 71st minute penalty to seal a 2-0 win, 3-0 on aggregate. Following the match, Coach Stephen Hart and Captain Kenwin Jones spoke about the supporters.
What we need from Trinidad and Tobago is something that we have to give to them. We have to give them confidence in order for them to be able to come out and fill the stadiums. And I think so far for this year we have done well enough, to get a decent return of fans in the stadiums. To the fans that do come out, we want to say thank you for the support. You all have been there for, through the rough times. And now we have in some decent times. Thank you all for the support. But, in the future, we have to keep winning games to give the fans confidence to come out.
We're going to be there whether it's 30,000 or 2,000. And we want to thank them. Special thanks, because they are the real fans.
Following Friday's 1-0 win in Montego Bay in Jamaica, the naysayers were still in doubt about the resurgence in Trinidad and Tobago football. But this 2-0 victory versus the tough opponent Jamaica at the Hazy Crawford Stadium now shows that Trinidad and Tobago football is well on the way back up. A fond farewell to Christopher Burchell and Wayne Cunningham for News 4 Sports.
That's a very loud and clear Wayne Cunningham. News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. Children must feel a sense of love and protection at all times. This statement from the Honorable Clifton Decoto, Minister of Gender, Youth and Child Development. The minister visited the St. Mary's Children's Home in Trin City, where he applauded staff for their care of their wards. Minister Decoto also used the occasion to encourage citizens to put the welfare of children first and foremost in everything they do.
Children do require love, care and protection. And the Honorable Clifton Decoto, Minister of Gender, Youth and Child Development, is advocating this, especially in observance of Universal Children's Day, which is being observed today, November 20th. As he addressed staff and youngsters at St. Mary's Home, Minister Decoto noted that his ministry was created for this very reason. He said the welfare of the nation's children must never become secondary.
Today marks a special day for all children across the world. Today, the 20th of November, the world commemorates Universal Children's Day. And what is so special about today? You may ask. Well, as early as 1954, the United Nations General Assembly recommended that all countries should institute a Universal Children's Day to be observed as a day to promote the mutual exchange and understanding among children and to initiate action to benefit and promote welfare of the world's children. The government believes in the paradigm that every citizen must have access to all the resources available to them. No citizen should be denied his or her rights. The Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development understands that children are defenseless and require care and protection. I always say they require tender, loving care and protection. It is in this vein that the ministry joins rank with the international community in acknowledging that all children should have, 1, security of care. All children should be loved, protected from harm and abuse, cherished and nurtured by the people around them.
The minister says it is shameful what some children suffer at the hands of those who are supposed to love them.
We need to say this loudly. All children should be loved, protected from harm and abuse, cherished and nurtured by the people around them. So many of us who are around children seem to forget that. You read the papers and you wonder where is the humanity in some of these people who are responsible for our children. They're bashing, they're throwing in the bins, they're doing this.
Felicia Wilson-Mon, News 4.
Meanwhile, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissassa, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, is urging world leaders and every citizen of this Twin Island state to do all they can to stop the suffering of children. The plea was made in her message to mark Universal Children's Day.
The Honorable Prime Minister says she is pleased to join national and international communities in commemorating Universal Children's Day, celebrated on November 20th yearly after the United Nations General Assembly on November 20th, 1959 adopted the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. On the same day, 30 years later, the UN signed the Convention on the Rights of the Child. The Honorable Prime Minister explains that the purpose of this most significant day in the UN's calendar is to make children happy, promote togetherness, acknowledge an understanding of young people's rights, and show respect for all children. But most importantly, the day was established to initiate action to benefit and promote the welfare of the world's children. Universal Children's Day is not simply a day to celebrate children for who they are, but to bring awareness of children around the globe who are victims of violence, abuse, exploitation, and discrimination, the Prime Minister says. She said, sadly, many are aware of the fact that children in some countries are used as laborers and are immersed in armed conflicts, child prostitution, and pornography, but nothing is done. Mrs. Persad-Bissassa says, quote, as an international community, we must do all we can to stop the suffering of children. We must put an end to these evils perpetrated on our children. End of quote. She said it was unconscionable that the world's most vulnerable and innocent citizens can be subjected to these inhumane acts. Quoting the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the Honorable Prime Minister added that every child needed to be nurtured, to be given a requisite for normal development, and to be helped and protected against exploitation. She said all children are entitled to protection and care, regardless of race, color, gender, language, or religion. Echoing the words of former President of South Africa and living legend Nelson Mandela, Mrs. Persad-Bissassa says, children are our greatest treasure. They are our future. Felicia Wilson-Mon, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.